The Obama legacy in one video. Kevin Williamson is such a good choice for pieces like this, for topics like this. I mean, he captures Barack Obama in one sentence. Quote, he is Lyndon Johnson without the expertise. Man, that did not go as planned at all, did it? Remember 2008? President George W. Bush, who had planned to spend his presidency reforming education and overseeing a Texas-style economic renaissance on a national scale, had been for years mired in the unpopular and thankless project of trying to build liberal democracies for backward desert tribesmen who have neither the capacity nor the desire for them. Vast sums of money were spent. Many fine soldiers gave their lives, and no obvious progress toward that larger end was made, or at least it didn't appear that way. Progress was made. It's just that progress is oftentimes very difficult and very costly, and the United States, the American people have always had about, in fact, if you go back and look through history, no war in which the United States participated has ever remained popular past 4 years at most. It gets past that point and people turn against it no matter how much sense it makes to continue the fight. America doesn't do long wars. It doesn't have the ability to collectively focus until the job is done. Short attention span theater, in other words. The American people grew weary of it, what did I just tell you, and then grew frightened for their own immediate economic prospects as a financial crisis, which was engineered by the Democrats, remember the Democrat financial logic bomb, gave them every reason to believe and to resent the fact that the politically connected were playing by a different set of rules. People in other words, populism. And if they traded places, the people bitching about it the most would be enjoying and defending it the most. It's just human nature. People in decaying Rust Belt towns and other communities that had failed to thrive in the early 21st century economic order asked why it was that Wall Street firms were too big to fail, but their former employers were not. Which obviously didn't include government motors. And so they turned to Barack Hussein Obama. They turned to a false messiah. He was young, eloquent, and at times inspiring, and apparently unflappable. And in spite of his origins as a jumped-up Chicago ward healer, or perhaps because of them, he was, he assured us, above anything so petty as ideology. He was vague enough for his own purposes. Hope and change at the macro level. Do what works at the operational level. And of course, nobody vetted him. It was racist to do so, don't you know? To the extent that he had anything like a substantive vision, it was roughly stop spending all that money over there and start spending it all over here. It was a message we had heard before and have heard since, not only from populists such as Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, but also in some form from more traditional Democrats such as Hillary Ronin Clinton, and from libertarian-leaning conservatives such as Rand Paul. That sentiment has long been a part of mainstream Republican rhetoric. It's what Dwight Eisenhower meant when he said that every dollar spent on bombs and bullets was stolen from the poor and destitute. Even though those bombs and bullets kept the poor and destitute alive. Obama's mandate, and here I use the ordinary sense of the word, not the special political sense, was clear enough. stabilize the economy and get it back to regular growth, bring our active military entanglements in the Middle East to some sort of orderly and honorable conclusion. Is it starting to sound like Vietnam yet? As the aftermath certainly did, and use the savings to fund some sort of national health insurance benefit. You know, it's a shame that Lyndon Johnson, here we go, did not live long enough to see his 1964 election reprised. Johnson ran as the peace candidate in 1964, promising to get us out of Vietnam, or at least stop any escalation of American involvement there. But of course, the opposite happened. Johnson promised that Medicare would be efficiently run and financially self-sustaining. And of course, the opposite happened. Johnson said that his Great Society programs would usher in a new kind of America, one in which government-directed investments and anti-poverty campaigns and educational projects would not only lift up the poor, but would, by helping them to maximize their own economic value, lift the entire country too. And the opposite happened. Johnson, who in Congress had opposed not only a great deal of civil rights legislation, but even anti-lynching bills, would in 1964 reinvent himself as a civil rights champion. It's pleasant to think that in whatever afterlife he finds himself, he is both amused and pleased to see himself politically reincarnated as a half-black man, a mulatto, if you will. You see, the key difference is that while Johnson may have been a rotten son of a bitch, he knew what he was doing, more or less. He didn't fumble into Vietnam in 1965. He lied about his intentions in 1964. He was sufficiently intelligent and sufficiently a man of the Senate to understand that the particulars of legislative architecture were going to be the deciding factor in the success or failure of his programs. He knew that they would have to be revisited over the years. He was a deeply weird man and a monster, but he was also a resident of the real world. Barack Obama? Not so much. In the 8 years of his presidency, we have both abandoned and reinvaded Iraq, launched new engagements in the Middle East and in Africa, but none in our national interest, and contributed mightily to the mess in Syria with Barack Obama's empty talk of red lines and sundry ultimata, none of which was taken seriously in Damascus, or Moscow, or Tehran, or Beijing, or Washington for that matter. The United States and Russia are at the moment engaged in an escalating tit-for-tat confrontation over Moscow's minor league meddling in the presidential election, which is, of course, what Barack Obama really cares about. Vladimir Putin can annex Crimea and test out new weapons on civilians in Syria, but release a bucket of embarrassing DNC emails, the veracity of which is, incidentally, not in dispute, and the Obama regime swings into action. On foreign policy, the predictions of Barack Obama's most trenchant conservative critics have come to pass. Neither our allies nor our enemies have confidence that we will say what we mean and do what we say. Beyond the squabble with Russia and the mess in Syria, our relations with Israel, speaking of meddling in overseas elections, are in tatters. Our critical allies in the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand are both confused by our meandering indecision and alienated by the Obama regime's pettiness and arrogance. The Europeans, who had hoped for so much from the Obama regime, have returned to their traditional view of the United States as the rich, powerful, oafish uncle kept at arm's length until the moment of crisis when he is irreplaceable. Obama's record at home is no more impressive. He punted his health care reform bill to his team in Congress, where the fine legislative minds of crazy Nancy Pelosi and dirty Harry Reid oversaw the creation of what the president proudly called Obamacare, which has created absolute chaos on the health insurance market. The artificial cartels it created are collapsing. Insurers are abandoning the program. Premiums and deductibles are skyrocketing. Consumers have fewer choices rather than more. Medicaid is swollen. And the American people who've elected Barack Obama in no small part because they thought he could apply that cool intelligence for which he was famous, at least on the pages of the New York Times, to the health insurance mess, absolutely hate what he has done. The Unaffordable Care Act almost certainly will be undone in the coming months, and the people who supported Barack Obama will be happy to see it go. You know, it's foolish and superstitious to credit Obama with the overall performance of the economy. But holding Barack Obama to his own standard, things do not look good there either. There has been no growth, and the outlook for employment and wages has been dismal. Obama likes to boast of being the green energy president and has been which is another way of saying the no energy president. Not low, no. And has been a terrible adversary for the real fuels business. Fossil fuels, that is. Black gold, Texas tea. But the fact is that much of the recent improvement in GDP, of which is a fantasy and a fable, is related to the recovery of the oil and gas business. You know, all those oceans of natural gas and petroleum that are beneath our very soil, ladies and gentlemen. The American energy renaissance is to be celebrated, but at the same time, we should be mindful of the dangers of relying too heavily on any one source of growth and wealth. Witness the Russians. American homeowners felt pretty good about their economic prospects when housing prices were skyrocketing in the run-up to the financial crisis, the Democrat financial logic bomb. But prices moved both ways, including the price of oil, peak oil, nincompooperi notwithstanding. Republicans know what Barack Obama has accomplished. The GOP practically has never been in a better position politically, with the state legislatures and governorships, the House and the Senate, and a newly well, they think they have a Republican president anyway. A ritual acknowledgement of hubris, who is also a jealous god, is here appropriate. The Democrats should be asking themselves what Barack Obama has accomplished as well. He has decimated their party. The things they care the most about are, from the progressive point of view, mostly either in stasis or in regress. Climate change legislation, economic inequality, abortion, transnational governance, etc. The left is strangely focused at the moment on exotica, such as which dressing room gender-confused people use at the gym, and whether nonconformist bakers can be obliged at gunpoint to bake a cake for Bill and Ted's excellent wedding. Their national leaders are elderly, intellectually narrow hacks of the kind who give hacks a bad name. Their great hope is an author of self-help books who smoothed her academic career by pretending to be a Cherokee. And if she had run in Hillary's place, she would be preparing to take the oath of office 2 weeks from Friday. Obama, bless his heart, still hasn't figured out that the job of the president isn't giving speeches, nor is it trolling on Twitter. And when was the last time he gave a speech that was worth a damn anyway? Well, it beats the hell out of me, although we keep being told that every last one was historic, a term that, as well as terms like racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, blah, 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 have been completely drained of all meaning and are just pejoratives at this point. No, that did not go as planned at all, but you couldn't convince Barack Hussein Obama of that, could you?